As a guy who's made a ton of Dragon Ball what ifs over the years, I get asked a lot, what if Raditz survived or turned good? Or what about Nappa? Or what if the Saiyans as a whole were revived? And I just don't understand these questions. You'll see a lot of people call these characters wasted, which is why they want the what if in the first place, but I entirely disagree because it assumes that these characters didn't serve a very specific purpose in the story, which they all did. So I wanted to go over why Raditz, Nappa, and the Saiyans all had to die for the sake of the narrative of Dragon Ball, as well as why I personally don't see any value in giving them a what if where they're revived or spared or turned good. Let's start with Raditz because he's the most mind-boggling pick to me, and that's because Raditz is a nothing character. I have to give a huge shout out here to Masako X for making his many part what if series about Raditz turning good, because honestly, I can't find it within myself to do that because Raditz as a character is just a blank slate. But just think about it. Who is Raditz at the end of the day? Well, like I said in my video covering how wrong Raditz was with everything he said in the Saiyan saga, he's really there as a plot device. His goal and purpose is to establish this broader universe, dump a ton of exposition on the main cast, while being incorrect, as we would eventually find out, and also setting up how powerful Nappa and Vegeta would be in 1 year's time because he is weaker than them, but also managed to be a nearly impossible wall to overcome for the two strongest fighters on Earth without a little bit of luck. His death is also extremely important to the story being told and the themes of the Saiyan arc as a whole. People call Raditz wasted potential because he's Goku's brother, and his brother must be special and important. But the fact that Raditz has to die, and Goku has to make a choice over the bonds he's created on Earth, over familial bonds, over bonds of blood and heritage, shows the nature versus nurture theme of the entire arc, and displays exactly where Goku lands on that side of the argument. Nurture over nature. His adoptive home, his adoptive family, over his real family that he never knew and does not want to be a part of. But of course, when making a what if, we can throw all of that out the window and just make up some BS. So why don't I like the idea of doing that? Well, Raditz surviving and turning good sounds great on paper, but it requires us to basically make a character out of nothing. Raditz is a blank slate of a character. We don't know who he is, his aspirations, his own individual goals. He exists to move the plot forward. He exists to say he is Goku's brother, but not show he is Goku's brother. He is supposed to be so basic and evil that it's a simple right and wrong in terms of Goku choosing his adoptive family on Earth over his real-life brother. Now, I have seen some people try to characterize Raditz as maybe goofy in the way that Goku is, but to me, that doesn't make sense with how he was portrayed in the Saiyan saga at all. I've also seen people characterize Raditz as insecure because he's weaker than Nappa and Vegeta and as strong as a Cyberman, which is basically a living weapon rather than an actual soldier or Saiyan warrior like he is. But these are all assumptions about how he feels and never things he directly says that he feels. He doesn't seem to be disgruntled by the fact that Nappa and Vegeta are stronger than him. He takes a bit of levity in it, knowing that they'll come to Earth and kill Goku and the others. But what's interesting here is he thinks that Nappa and Vegeta will come to Earth to revive him. So you may be saying maybe we can extrapolate a character trait from that. But that scene isn't supposed to say anything about Raditz. The scene where Raditz says he's going to be revived by his Saiyan comrades is followed up by Nappa basically saying, hey, are we gonna go to Earth and revive Raditz? And it's Vegeta who is the one to say no. We don't need him. Who cares? This isn't to characterize Raditz. It's not to characterize Nappa. They are doing what is sensible. They are a dying race, and one of their final warriors passed away, one that was on their side. Of course, someone who's not emotionally stunted or repressing their feelings about their species and their race would go out of their way to revive a comrade. But Vegeta doesn't. Vegeta is being characterized as someone who sees strength above all else. He is being characterized as different from Nappa and Raditz. That's the important thing here. And because Vegeta is the one who'll end up being the biggest character of the three in this whole arc. So at the end of the day, Raditz is really just a plot device with not much characterization at all to go off of, and it's hard to make a story about him in a what-if setting that's interesting and actually says something about the series, because All it would be is another guy, maybe kind of like a less mean Vegeta, that's on the team. And for me, that doesn't really move the needle, which actually ties directly to my other issue with this, which is Raditz's relevance to the story. I mean, what do we actually get out of a story where Raditz survives and maybe turns to the side of good to fight his former comrades or fight the Frieza Empire? Are we gonna just make him arbitrarily stronger than Vegeta? Is he just going to replace Vegeta in that circumstance? How do we balance this to make it any sort of sense in a way that, like, feels good and doesn't just feel like we're shoehorning Raditz in where he doesn't feel like he belongs? Again, we have no idea of what his potential is if he trained and got stronger. We have no idea how long it would take him to unlock Super Saiyan or further transformations. We have nothing to go off of other than a couple of chapters of the manga and a few episodes of Dragon Ball Z. That's basically it, and one flashback in the Broly movie, I guess. But really, there's just nothing to pull from. And that's why when I made a what if about Raditz surviving or turning good, I made him Goku's age, so he's sent to Earth at the same time. And this is back for when I was doing what ifs as literally every single video on Carthu's Dojo, and it's probably the what if that burnt me out of doing what ifs on Carthu's Dojo exclusively and got me to the more variety style Dragon Ball content that I do now. So I could thank Raditz for that, but it's not because I enjoyed making a what if about him, if that makes sense. Man, I'm hungry. But what am I gonna eat? Summer is already busy between going out and traveling, and not to mention running a couple of YouTube channels. So how am I gonna hit my nutrition goals and avoid eating out while wasting as little time as possible? Well, thankfully, Factor is sponsoring this video. What makes Factor so great, aside from the convenience, is that they use real ingredients, balanced macronutrients, and at least 2 vegetables per meal, so you can make sure that you're hitting your nutrition goals this summer. There's no planning, no meal prep, and no cleanup. Just take your Factor meal out of the fridge, put it in the microwave for the specified time on the package, and you're eating way faster than cooking or takeout. Being able to quickly make delicious food, like this roasted red pepper filet mignon with a side of lemon garlic tortellini primavera, makes eating not only easy, but enjoyable. And let's be honest here, there was no way I was ever gonna be able to cook something that good on my own. And ordering a meal like that from a restaurant, even for pickup, would be very expensive in terms of time and money. So if you wanna eat delicious food like this, head to factor75.com or click the link below and use code CarthuFB50 to get 50% off your first Factor box plus free breakfast for 1 year. That's code CarthuFB50 at factor75.com to get 50% off plus free breakfast for an entire year. This offer is only valid for new Factor customers with code and qualifying auto-renewing subscription purchase. Okay, so what about Nappa then? I mean, Nappa has way more screen time, way more personality shown than Raditz, which is a good start. I mean, he is clearly somewhat of an idiot in an endearing way, and that is a character trait that's been exacerbated in basically every what if he's been in, but especially in Dragon Ball Z Abridged, where they take his one notable character trait and run it to absurdity for the sake of a joke. In that format, I think that really works, and it helps to say a lot about Nappa's identity in the minds of fans. But when he's actually in the story, he's supposed to be this like force of nature, this wall that these fighters, the greatest on Earth, can't even come close to defeating because they just don't have the raw power to overcome what he is outputting. Now, they get close in some cases, like the Kienzon that slices his face because he's an endearing idiot, but it's not enough for me to say like it's worth making a what if about him, especially when, again, his purpose, just like Raditz was to make Nappa and Vegeta seem strong, is to make Vegeta seem strong because Vegeta is bossing him around. So when it comes to a what if about Nappa surviving and turning good, I get into this mindset of like, okay, why? And then secondly, when? Because Vegeta is the one to kill him, of course. Goku kind of has to cripple him regardless and throw him to Vegeta because he was going to attack and kill Gohan and Krillin. So if you think about it, the only time to spare him is have Vegeta not kill him. Okay, then you have 2 options. Does Vegeta, when he escapes, take Nappa with him? And if not, does Nappa stay on Earth and turn good? And then we have the Raditz situation again, where we have this arbitrary Saiyan who we don't know the potential of, we don't know the work ethic of, we don't know how hard it will be for him to become Super Saiyan and how much he'll stay relevant in the story, and are we just shoehorning him in for the sake of shoehorning him in, instead of saying something interesting and unique about Dragon Ball as a series, which is what I try to do in my what ifs. I know I'm not the best at it always, especially in my older work, but in modern what ifs that I write, I do try to talk about some interesting nuances in the series, sprinkle them throughout, and use the story structure of a what if to guide you through learning about the series of Dragon Ball. It's sort of like disguised Dragon Ball education, but it's like, you know, the worst kind of education because it's like not a bachelor's degree. It's about a manga from 40 years ago. Anyway, what's funny about that is I can say something pretty interesting or notable or not notable about Raditz and Nappa, and that's that Jiro's robots and supercomputer do not care about them whatsoever. Cell is made up of 5 characters: King Cold, Frieza, Piccolo, Vegeta, and Goku, and he did not gather any DNA from Raditz or Nappa. So to me, it means that these characters aren't perceived as having like high potential within the own bounds of the series, which makes them even less relevant in the structure of a what if, where they may be going further and further throughout the story. Of course, they could maybe keep up more so than some characters have in the series, but those characters were written into the series with the idea that they would eventually fade off or taper off the power hierarchy, whereas these characters were supposed to show up and die. That's really their purpose. And speaking of, why did Nappa have to die? Well, let me say, just like Raditz, he wasn't wasted. Because just like Raditz, he is supposed to show the themes of the Saiyan arc. In the way that Goku sacrifices himself to kill Raditz shows he's picking his nurture over his nature, Vegeta killing Nappa shows Vegeta is choosing nature over nurture. This comrade he's been with his entire time is weak. He is useless. He cannot fight. The weak don't deserve to live. They shouldn't slow down those who can fight. So he kills Nappa. This is to brutally show how different the mindset of Vegeta and Goku is. Goku is saving his weaker friends, fighting on their behalf, whereas Vegeta is getting rid of his weaker comrades when they no longer can serve any purpose to him, when they no longer have value. These ideologies are what drive the arc. It's why Goku has to lose the 1v1 to Vegeta, but his comrades coming and helping him, showing that they're not useless because they are weaker than him, is so important to the structure and themes of this story arc. It is very hard to understate how important Vegeta killing Nappa is to the story of the Saiyan saga. It does not hit as hard if it does not happen because it characterizes Vegeta so perfectly. While we as the audience got to see how Vegeta was brutal to those who lose and those who are weak when he kills a Cyberman earlier in the arc, Goku didn't. So Toriyama specifically had a demonstration of Vegeta's character and his difference from Goku happen directly in front of Goku to sell the point to Goku himself that they are opposed, not just in terms of this conflict, but in terms of their ideology and outlook on how they treat others and view the world. Raditz and Nappa weren't wasted. They served their exact story purpose. There are wasted characters in Dragon Ball. I'm sure I'll make a main channel video about it at some point about who's the most wasted character in Dragon Ball. But these two Saiyans who got main fights in the story, who got defeated by the main character, one of which led to the first ever death of the main character of the story, are not wasted at all. It doesn't matter that they're Saiyans. It doesn't matter that one's Goku's brother. They're not wasted. And that's just the simple truth. Okay, so finally we have the Saiyans themselves, and to me, this is the funniest idea of them all, because what would reviving the Universe 7 Saiyans accomplish? They are just space pirates, with or without Frieza. Vegeta acknowledges this himself as recently as Dragon Ball Super. So these are not characters and people you want back in the world. They are evil space pirates. What makes it even funnier is there's like only 2 ways to do this, right? Like I said, reviving the Saiyans is a bad idea. Even if it was easy, we don't know if Porunga can revive the Saiyans. We know Shenron can't revive the Saiyans, which means you would certainly need to be absolutely sure that you could revive them, the Super Dragon Balls. And I don't know who's going through space collecting planet-sized Dragon Balls across 2 universes, by the way, to revive a bunch of space pirates that are probably gonna have to be killed anyway, or Beerus might just kill them again, because he didn't with them. The other option is sparing the Saiyans. But sparing the Saiyans is like a completely different story. It is so detached from the main version of Dragon Ball that it doesn't even make sense. The only time that I've ever covered this was actually my What If Bardock Turned Super Saiyan video, I think. And the reason I was able to cover it there, or even wanted to, is because it was actually originally a live stream where I made it a choose your own adventure what if, where viewers would pick the direction the story took. Could Bardock beat Frieza, or do we let him, off guard Frieza so he could win that conflict? What happens to the Saiyans? Who gets Broly? What happens going throughout this whole story? What happens to Guinea and Goku on Earth? Does Guinea go to Earth? There was a lot of choices that a chat made and not me. And that's why that what if was fun to me, because I made a choose your own adventure style. I then wrote it into a script and made it a fully edited video to celebrate that live stream that we did. But it was not ever meant to be taken as truly serious, because it's just not a topic I would normally cover, because 1, I don't think Super Saiyan Bardock beats first form Frieza, and then 2, I don't see how it tells us anything interesting about the story. We actually know very little about Saiyan society and how it was structured to know what would happen if some sort of Saiyan uprising succeeded against the Emperor of the Universe and everyone else. So it is very hard to structure a what if like that. Okay, so why did the Saiyans have to die narratively? And I don't think I should have to say this, but it's crucial to Goku's origins and the story of the Saiyans themselves that they be wiped out. It's important for when Frieza is established as the one who destroyed the Saiyans. It's even important in the Saiyan saga, when clearly it wasn't in Toriyama's intentions that Frieza was the one who wiped out the Saiyans, and they are so little in number. And that's why they need someone like Goku to join their forces. And that's why they take it so personally when he's stronger than he's supposed to be. It's part of the structure of this world and this story, and it's very crucial. And for me, it gives us this one line in the fight between Super Saiyan Goku and Frieza. And it's one line that has stuck with me this entire time, where Frieza says the Saiyans did so much harm and cruelty throughout the universe. They were no angels. And then Goku responds that they died for those sins. They were punished. The Saiyans had to die. He is fighting for the Saiyans that Frieza killed, but not because they deserved to live, but because Frieza killed them. Does that make sense? It's such a beautiful and poignant line that you don't get from Goku that often, that it just really strikes me every time I read that section of the manga, because it just feels so powerful and shows Goku's mindset in the fight against Frieza. And you don't get that if the Saiyans don't die. And let's be honest, if you want the Saiyans alive anyway, they're there. They're in Universe 6. That's the type of Saiyans you'd be getting, okay? You're not gonna get any brutal planet-conquering Saiyans, because they have to be wiped out again or wrangled in by Vegeta after not too long. You're gonna get Saiyans that are more akin to the Universe 6 Saiyans, where they're kind of just nice guys and they go around helping people, great times. I mean, you have Saiyans. I get it. The Saiyans in Universe 6 are not people's favorites. I have many issues with the Universe 6 Saiyans, don't get me wrong, but they have basically everything you'd want. They have a king that's apparently just like Vegeta. So he probably is just basically their version of Vegeta the Fourth. They have buff guys, by the way. It's just that we don't get to see them as main characters in the story for some reason. So there is more to explore in the world of the Universe 6 Saiyans, and maybe you could focus on the rougher Saiyans that are in Universe 6. I mean, we know they exist. That's where Caulifla and Kale are from. They are from the Saiyans that aren't part of the royal army like Kaba is. So you can get what you want from the Universe 7 Saiyans in the Universe 6 Saiyans. And I don't think we need to revive the Universe 7 Saiyans to make that happen. I actually think that'd be pretty lame to do. Especially because in the Dragon Ball Super manga, Vegeta has kind of come to terms with his guilt and the sins of his people. He is the one we are reconciling these feelings about the Universe 7 Saiyans through. So Do we need a bunch of no-name characters who we don't really know that closely to go through a similar arc of progression? I don't think it's worth it. Just for them to get sidelined or be used as a plot device later down the line where the Saiyans are wiped out again, I guess. I think they're already being used narratively still to this day, and they are in the background. And that's where this wiped out species should remain, because that is important to the core story of Dragon Ball. But these are all just my opinions on this stuff, okay? I'm a content creator. I make what I want because I like to make what I want. But that doesn't mean you can't find this stuff from incredible creators on the platform. There's Moscow X, Salad Saiyan, Smug Stick, and probably a plethora of others that I don't know that well to recommend them to you that have covered all of these topics in some capacity. And so I would recommend you go watch it there. But that's all I have to say. Have a good one.